Hello friends, and welcome to CJoy Yoga. So I am on the second day of my little Ayurvedic spring cleanse. Why am I telling you that? Because I have tried to film this like I think this is my fourth rendition, and I keep like blah, 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 blah. So I think that no matter what comes out of my mouth this time, I'm still gonna film it. And now you just know that it's because my little brain is trying to detox and get rid of all the crap that's been in it for, the year of COVID probably. So that said, spring is a time to detox. Yeah, hopefully watch the spring video where I talk a little bit about the Ayurvedic perspective and give you ideas of things you can do to help keep balance this summer. If not, go check it out. We got some breath work that we've done, all these different things, right? So today we're gonna work with some twists and a little bit of core work. Before we start though, core is not just your abdominals in my world. Core is anything that supports your spine. So think any muscle between the hips, and I would even put the hamstrings and the quads probably in there, and then let that come on up to everything between the ears. So anything that supports that beautiful spinal column of yours, to me, that's core work. There will be a little bit of a focus on the abdomen today because we're bringing twists. We're gonna go in and out of twists as well, which if you think about, if I had you in an MRI, think about what happens to your internal organs when we twist, right? They twist and they open up, and they twist and they open up. And in yoga, we believe that to be very detoxifying, to get fresh fluid and blood, and to get rid of like the old stuff that's been sitting in our colon, etc. Booyah. One more thing. What is your relationship with your abdomen? And be honest. Most of us, we not only talk terribly, right, in our self-talk to this area and dislike it and think that it's fat or think that it's, doesn't look the way it should look, or all the various things that go behind that. So we usually have a pretty unhealthy emotional relationship with this area of our body. And then I would add on to that, you bully it. Right? I do. I still find myself bullying it. I'm changing. That's changing every dang day. I work with that. It's a practice. But I think we really bully this area of our body because we think it should look a certain way, right? And society tells us does by all the pictures on the magazines, etc. So can we please stop doing that? Can we please stop being bullies to our bellies? And can we please have a better relationship and realize we're on the same team? And can we start to love this area of our body? Food for thought. Okie dokie artichokes. We're gonna start laying down on our back. You're gonna wanna have a block standing by. Other props can be around. You may or may not use them, but the block I would definitely like to use. And if you find you don't have a block, you could find something else that's about that width. And worst case scenario, you imagine you have one when you don't, right? So, lie down. Feet on the ground, feet a little wide, lean knees in. They don't have to touch. We just want the hips to soften. Let's take about 5 breaths here. Inhale and release all the muscles in your face and your neck and your throat and your shoulders on the exhale. And inhale and expand. And with the exhale, it's the shoulders, arms, hands, and fingers. Inhale, expand the torso and the abdomen. And exhale, release tension in those areas. Hippies get their own breath. Inhale into the hips. And exhale, soften. Last one. Inhale, expand through the legs as if you could, right? The feet and the toes. And then with your exhale, release everything from the upper legs down. Now, before we go too far, I want to introduce Kapalabhati, skull shining breath, which we've been working lately. You can go back to one of the old videos if you want to learn more about that, but otherwise, it's that forceful exhale. So we're going to do a round of 10 of those. Take an inhale. And pause. Regular breathing. So this time when you do it, I just want you to pay attention if it's just the front abdomen moving down, and does that start to flatten your low back to the ground? And just for giggles this time around, what happens if the back body moves towards the front body and the front body moves towards the back body when you forcefully exhale? Just play with it. Just see what that does. Inhale. And regular breath. Okay, so that breath will come and play a couple of times down the line. So now walk your feet in. You can open your eyes, by the way. Have your feet about hip distance. Take the block and put the block between your thighs on the shortest setting, yeah? And have your arms out, your arm and upper body in Shavasana, and try to keep them that way. It's also fun when you start to do core work to notice how much the shoulders, the jaw, the neck start to get involved, right? So try to keep that soft. Take an inhale. And so less is more, less is more, less is more, less is more. Exhale, move your inner thighs into the block. And inhale, release that. What do you notice around the pelvis and the pelvic floor? Exhale, move into that block or imaginary block, but I'm just going to say block even if you don't actually have one, right? Inhale, you could have a really thick blanket for that matter, right? Exhale, move into that block, and then pause. Keep the pressure into the block. Now, I'm not at full blast. I'm not 100% Suzanne Summering this thing, right? I'm just gently moving in enough that I can start to feel what happens in my outer hips, what happens in my pelvic floor, what happens in my corset, and yes, I do feel my inner groin, of course, those are turned on as well, yeah? Anything else you feel. If you're like, wow, the front of my hips are turned on like crazy, can you soften them? If your neck is turned on like crazy, can you soften them, right? So what can you soften while still maintaining this pressure? Now, keep moving into the block, even though you're probably getting a little tired, believe it or not, right? Doesn't seem like a lot. I want you to imagine, if you will, at your perineum, that's the little bit of muscular area between your genitals and your anus. Now, if you could, right, can you imagine that's like a diaphragm, and you could pull that up through the crown of the head right now? And how does that change the experience? What starts to turn on when that happens? And some of it we want to turn on, the corset, right? Some of it we don't want to turn on, the neck, the jaw, the shoulders, the psoas. Go ahead and release all of that. Release the block off to the side, right? And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add that back in without the block, trying to find it without the help of the prop. So now move into your imaginary block gently, less is more. Try to keep the psoas, the jaw, the neck, whatever it was that you found turned on. Maybe you're making fists, right? It's amazing where it shows up. And then I want you to imagine that someone had a string connected to your perineum, and the string went all the way up through the crown of your head, and you had a marionette controller above you, and they were pulling gently on that string, and it pulled your perineum gently up towards the crown of the head. Don't overdo this stuff. Now keep all of that and go ahead and try to bring the right leg up in a tabletop position. And bring that right leg down, right? First time I'm not going to say a whole lot. Try to keep those elements. Bring the left leg up in a tabletop position. And bring that back down. Now notice, when you go to bring the right leg up, right, does the right hip move down to the ground? What do you need to turn on to keep the right hip from dropping as you move up into that tabletop? And again, you're going to explore with the left side. And is this side different? Usually they are, right? When you go to lift that left leg, can you stabilize so the pelvis, the left hip doesn't drop as you lift that leg up? One more. Can you do less with the psoas? So as you lift the right leg, using that front hip flexor only as much as you need to, but keep moving into the block. Keep the pelvic floor on. Keep that perineum pulling up, right? And again, trying to keep all of that, what we said so far and what I just added. Again, try not to use as much psoas, the front of the left hip. I sometimes even knock mine to be like, hey, you don't have to work so hard. This is not everybody, but many of us overuse our psoas for core work. So when you get that foot back down, release the psoas entirely. You might even dig your fingers in there a little bit just to kind of release that. Walk your feet out wide, to your arms out. Inhale and exhale the knees to the right, up to center and to the left. So take your own pace and just swoosh back and forth a few times and just try to release everything we just did with windshield wiper. And after you have gone to the left, try that again. The next time you're going to come back up through your center. Now, I'd also like to add in that if you're doing a spring cleanse or a dietary cleanse, you don't want to do crazy exercise during that time. You want the body to be able to use its energy to get rid of the toxins, right? So just keep that in mind as we move throughout today's practice. Yes, we'll do some stuff that encourages some strength, right? But do as little as you have to, right? Be strong and steady, yet soft and have ease, working towards that. Sthira Sukham. So from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go pushing into the feet or hip distance, pushing into the feet. Don't lift the hips, but I want you to push into the feet enough that you feel that tilt of the pelvis, right? My frontal hip points move down, my tailbone gets a little light, but I'm not lifting my hips off the earth, and release that. And do that again. As I push my feet down, I'm going to get just that little bit of that tilt in the pelvis. And release that. So now, can you add your block work back in, right? Can you move into that imaginary block? For most of us, our knees want to go wide. If you're knock-kneed, you might imagine a strap outside your thighs that you're pushing out into, right? And release that. So I know a couple of my friends are knock-kneed, so that would pertain to you, right? And as you push into the feet, move into the block, go ahead and now pause. Stay here. Now, as you feel that perineum, still try to find that perineum engaging up towards the crown of the head, you're going to slowly start to roll up one vertebrae at a time into a bridge, right? Grab the edges of your mat, maybe rock your shoulders underneath you a little bit. Find that either moving into the block or moving out into the strap. If you're able to, you could do both of them at the same time. That's two isometrics that really help this area, but don't overstress yourself. And then from there, come up, just lift the right heel. My toes are still on the earth. I'm not lifting the leg. Don't get all aggro on me, right? Now, can you pull your left heel towards your left shoulder so your hamstring turns on as a support system? Yeah? And then from there, maybe you lift that right knee up into just tabletop. We're not going to straighten it, and we're going to bring that back down all the way to the ground. Heel touches, roll back down all the way through the spine. Hips come to the earth, and pause. And again, just notice if you're ready and you're already like, I got to go and I'm doing 10 of these and I'm pushing my heels up to the sky. Is that a healthy relationship for your abdominal area, right? Are you being a bully? I'm just saying. Go ahead and push into the feet. Find that little rock. Let the tailbone start to lift up, lift up, lift up, lift up. We're moving slow because the muscles we're asking to turn on right now are the hardest to get to engage, right? Move into the block, I think, in all the bodies I've worked with, this is true. As you move into that imaginary block, you're finding that pelvic floor in that corset. Now, just the left heel only. My toes are still on the earth. And already my left hip wants to drop, so I'm stabilizing. But I'm going to pull my right heel. Oh, sorry, you can rock your arms underneath you. Sorry. As your right heel reaches, pulls towards that right shoulder, you might get a hamstring cramp. Come out of it and come back in when you can, right? And as I pull in, now I've got that right buttocks and glute and hamstring. Buttocks is glute. The glute and the hamstring working so that maybe I can lift that left leg up in a tabletop without my left hip dropping. Bring the left foot down and roll down one vertebrae at a time. Now I'm going to point something out, and if you want to look at my body real quick while you're not doing anything, keep the neck soft. If I'm coming up, right, and I'm choosing to lift my foot, but all of this kind of stuff is happening, do you think I'm doing benefit to this area of my body, or am I reworking patterns that aren't necessarily going to help me stabilize the area? Would it be wiser for me to leave my toes on and find the muscles necessary to strengthen and stabilize? Right? And then maybe someday I lift it, but maybe I don't ever. Go ahead and roll down one vertebrae at a time. Food for thought. We're going to do that one more time, okay? Grabbing the edges of your mat. Find it a little quicker, but same thing. I push in and I pull my low belly down. I move into my block. I roll up. I tuck my shoulders underneath, and imagine that puppeteer pulling your perineum to the crown of the head. Now I lift my right toes, right? And I'm going to pull my left heel towards my shoulder to get my hamstring and my left glutes to really support me here. Now maybe I lift that up in a tabletop, and maybe this time I push the heel up to the ceiling. I like this version because now push the heel, really push it to the ceiling. When you push your left heel down and ooh, right? Bend the knee and bring that foot down. Try not to just plop it down in emergency mode, right? Try to control it as best you can and find stability, right?
Moving in the block, heels pull back, all the stuff. And then come onto your left heel. Pause. Take a second here. Pull your right heel to your right shoulder. Get that right side to engage deeply to support you. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you come to tabletop. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you push the heel up and then push the heel up and then really push the heel up and then push the right heel down and breathe. And then bring that in. How's your tongue? How's your jaw? How's your shoulder? How's your neck? How are your psoas? Go ahead and roll down one vertebrae at a time. Pause. TV arms out, walk the feet wide, and maybe you do that windshield wiper just to release whatever's going on in there. So now we're going to roll over onto our bellies, and we're going to work a little bit of the muscles that run alongside the spine on our back body. Starting nice and slow. We're going to stack our hands, elbows wide, forehead to the back of the hands. Sorry if I have any kind of muffle. My mic's right here. I think I'm okay, but if I am, I apologize. Press into the tops of the feet, right? Thighs get buoyant, tailbone moves down, and then inhale, lift up like you're coming up into low cobra, but leave your hands down. Now I want you to pull, traction your hands back to your belly button, but traction your belly button forward towards your hands. So that's an opposition. Now even here, imagine a block between your thighs. Can you move your block into your thighs? Some of you need to. It would be beneficial if you let your inner groin roll up and participate instead of being all outer groin. Outer groin's very vague, but you know what I mean when I say that, hopefully, right? And again, move into that block, and how does that change the experience here? And exhale and roll down. When I work with people on stabilizing their core, people sometimes get aggravated because we start with small things and they think it's got to be 1,000 sit-ups. I disagree completely. I think doing these kinds of things on a regular basis will give you a more stable, supple core than anything else that you can do that's super strength-based. Push into the tops of the feet, thighs lift, tailbone down, pull the hands back, belly pulls forward towards the hands, and again, move into your imaginary block. If you're someone who rolls down, roll the pinky toes roll up, roll your pinky toes down, aka roll your inner groin up, right? And then move into that block and notice what that does in your low abdomen. What does it do to your outer hips, right? There are a few lines that turn on with this that are really great for stabilizing. And roll down one vertebrae at a time. Pause. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring our forehead to the ground, and we're going to try to interlace our hands behind our head. Now I'm going to try to leave my head a little higher, so that's the only reason I have a blanket, please, friends, is my vocal quality. So you're going to interlace your hands behind your back. If that's not available, grab a strap. That would also be great. Press into the tops of the feet, thighs lift, right? And then all the same stuff. I want you to imagine your hands are still forward, even though I know they're not, if your brain can do that. Pull your hands back and pull your belly to the hands, and then reach the knuckles back and come on up. So again, my belly is still tractioning forward to the front of my mat. Maybe the pinky toes could roll down for you. And then from there, move the inner groin into an imaginary block. Right? And breathe. And really keep that pubic bone moving down to the ground. Take another breath. And exhale, come down, turning your head either direction with your hands next to you, palms up. And again, I'm just going to stay down with my head because I've got this blanket plus glasses plus a mic. I'm a mess, people, a mess, I tell you. Interlace your hands behind your back. Press into the tops of the feet, the thighs lift, the tailbone moves down. Pull, traction your belly towards where your hands were, the front of your mat. Then reach the knuckles back to start to lift you up. Now this version, maybe you lift your toes, but I can guarantee that probably about 80% of the people, right, our pinky toes get really light again. So again, can you rotate your inner groin up? Can you move into that imaginary block between the thighs and notice what that does to your front low belly? And I mean low belly, right? And breathe. Your pelvic floor, you may or may not be able to feel that. Again, imagine the puppeteer pulling your perineum all the way up. And that doesn't mean you have to squeeze the heck out of your anus and your low back to do that. Can you differentiate? Coming down, releasing the other way with the head, arms by the side, palms up. Pause for a breath here. Hands next to the low floating ribs. We're going to push up to hands and knees. Let's do a couple of cat-cows for just like a nice little release. Inhale, reach the chest forward. Exhale, round the spine up. Inhale, reaching the chest forward. And exhale, round the spine up. And come on back to your neutral. Now from here, we're going to do a little bit of core strengthening, but it's also going to be arms. Anyone who has issues with wrists or hands, remember you could come down to forearms, and you would just hold a half forearm plank. But if it's available for you, right? We're going to have our shoulders over our wrists. We're going to have our knees down, but they're back behind our hips, so we're in more of a half plank kind of a pose. Push the shins down, right? Move into your imaginary block. Again, if your toes come together, you want to separate them hip distance. Move into your imaginary block and find that pelvic floor. This might be plenty for you, friends. Slide the shoulder blades down the back. Any wrist-sensitive friends, remember, the more we push into our fingers, the more we take the weight out of the wrists, right? And then exhale, elbows bend by the side, just as low as is comfortable. Inhale, push up. Go slow. Exhale, when you start to come down, what part of your body wants to give way? Do the elbows want to go wide? Does the belly want to drop? Do the ribs want to flare? And coming back up. Are you still moving into that imaginary block between your thighs? Maybe lowering down. Maybe you're just staying at the top at this point because it's starting to get hard and you're losing your form. Right? And I've maybe got one more with a little less of a dip in me today with my good form. And then go ahead and move back to child's pose. Take a break, take a breath, and breathe. You could build the floor up to your head, or the head might come down to the floor. Your hips could be high, or you could have a blanket behind your knees if you have sensitivity in the knees or the hips. Soften tongue and jaw and let your belly really just hang down between your thighs. So this is definitely a wide-legged child's pose for that purpose. I plan to do more twists, but I haven't really been adding them in, have I? We're going to add one in now. Like I said, welcome to my day. I actually started to kind of figure this out and work it at home, and then I just also left all those notes there too. We're going to walk our left hand. My knees come together. I don't think I said that. I'm going to walk my left hand towards the right edge of my mat, and I'm going to lengthen my right arm out as well for the first little bit, and push the hands forward, move the hips back, and feel that left side body open. Now this might be plenty. We're going to try to add on a twist. You're going to bring your right hand outside the right knee, and you can either just push into the right hand and do a baby twist here. If you can, if it's available, you're going to bring your left elbow to the outer right knee, right? So we do this similarly when we're in lunges a lot, right? We're going to inhale the chest forward and lengthen the spine, let the belly lift up, and then go ahead and you're going to push the elbow and the knee together to come into a twist. Now you could, right, even use your hand and move the flesh of the abdomen into the twist if that feels helpful. Shoulders away from the ears. You might turn and look up beyond your right shoulder-ish, whatever that is, but you might not. And then go ahead and come back through the center. We're going to walk over to the left, right hand on the edge of the left mat, left arm off, pushing down and forward. Just take a second. This is just simply side child's pose, so we feel that right side body lengthen. We want to get that ready for the twist before we twist. And then from there, bring the left hand outside the left knee, and you're going to bring that right elbow to the outside of the left knee if it's available, right? And I can push gently the elbow and the knee together to twist. I can push gently into my left hand, and I can let that lift my left shoulder into the twist. Again, I might use my right hand for a second and scoot my abdomen up and out into the twist if that's beneficial to my body. It is to mine personally, right? And then maybe you turn and look up if the shoulders are away from the ears and your neck has the space. Take another breath. And go ahead and unwind and come back down. Take 2 breaths in child's pose. Now leave the knees together if that's all right. If it's not compressing in a painful way. And, when you breathe, move the abdomen down into the legs. And when you exhale, let the legs move the abdomen up into the spine. So it's a little massage, I'll say. And then go ahead and we're going to add on one more twist here before we call it a day. So again, I'll do one maybe that has a little more effort. This one is more just trying to look at the small pieces of the core. I'm trying to think. I'm not speaking well today, so I should speak less. Step your right foot forward and come into your low lunge. And from there, just coming up, right? Bringing the arms up, maybe interlacing. We've been playing with this where we lean to the right and lengthen out of the left side body. Right hand could come on thigh if balance is an issue, or you could have a block or a table next to you on the right side. Come back through center, bring the right hand on the thigh. You have two options. You can either drop the left hand under the left shoulder for the twist, a little more intense and along the lines of what we just did. You might bring that arm in. Again, I'm going to encourage you, bring your right hand in and you can kind of scoot that abdomen if that's helpful and come on down in. Hands come together. Inhale, lengthen whichever version you took, right? And then exhale, move the elbow and the knee together, start to move the abdomen. If you're in the full twist, right arm can totally reach up here. Either one is really beautiful, right? Take another breath here, inhale, and exhale, and then unwind the body. And let's step back for a downward dog between sides, assuming that feels okay in your body. Now, we haven't really done downward dog yet today, so feel free to pedal or do whatever that is for you. And then we're going to bring the knees down and step the left foot forward. And inhale those arms out and up. Maybe interlace, maybe left hand on left thigh, lengthen, lean over to the right. And again, just start to open up some of that right side body. And coming back up. Left hand on the leg. You can drop the right hand under the shoulder or you can hook it. You might use that left hand and scoot your abdomen, the flesh of the belly, bringing the hands together. Just show your belly love, right? Inhale, get nice and tall, and then exhale, push elbow and leg together. Maybe right hand is under and left arm can extend if that feels right for your body. If the shoulders are to the ears, you might even be able to turn the head. And by be able, I don't mean that's the end all be all. Just, play with your body and explore and experiment. If it doesn't feel good, maybe turning and looking down does. And release that. Step back, one more downward facing dog here. Breathing. And then go ahead and bring your knees down into a child's pose. You can do either version for yourself. Legs wide, toes touch, allows the abdomen to hang down, right? And have that freedom. Knees together can sometimes be a little compression in the area, and that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just if that feels like that's giving you that little massage through that area, that might be your choice, right? And definitely forearms down to the ground for this. If you'd prefer to lie down on your back into Shavasana, you can, but we're going to use this as our final pose for today's purposes. Everything softens. The breath finds its natural rhythm. And let's bring our hands underneath our shoulders and come on up. You can either sit in Virasana, where you have the knees come together and the heels a little wide. You could put something under your buttocks, or you could come into cross-legged. They're both quite wonderful. Bring the hands together in front of the chest. Inhale. Exhale and bow the head in. Taking a moment of gratitude. And I'm grateful for you all for bearing with me on a super slow brain day. And I think part of what happened too was that since I filmed it 4 different times before I got it, is I'm like, wait, did I do that in this, or was that the last video? Namaste, friends.
But what I hope you got from this more than anything is an awareness of some of the smaller muscles or the less engaged muscles, the muscles we forget to turn on. Hopefully we really found some of those and worked with some of those today. And then you can take that into those bigger things that you do. Okay, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.